to experience, indulge, and bask in the vast field of knowledge. We also feel honoured to have with us our beloved Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Dr. DSNLU and our Registrar in Charge, Shri Das, the supporting pillars of this institution and an inspiration to all of us. I now request our Honourable Vice Chancellor to deliver the welcome address.
I welcome Shri Krishna, Senior Advocate, who was his advocate. He is the first student of Visakhapatnam from National University. He studied in National University. So, regarding the international summit, which is going to be held in Visakhapatnam from day after tomorrow onwards, Sunday, 10 to 18. So, I request Sir to address our students, and he is very eminent lawyer in maritime matters and commercial arbitration also. So he will be useful. He will be a guide to the students to choose their careers. I welcome Shri Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With that, we are about to begin today's session. Please allow me to introduce our guest to everyone in your presence today. We are incredibly honored and fortunate to have you with us today, sir. And sir exemplifies a global career rooted in local pride. His journey from the shores of Vizag to the pinnacles of international maritime law is not just inspiring, it's a roadmap for what your own futures could hold. Please join me in extending a warm DSNLU welcome to Mr. Krishna. Mr. Krishna's journey begins right here in Andhra Pradesh. At the age of 17, he left his hometown Vizag for the hallowed halls of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. That was the launchpad for his stellar international career, a greatest hit collections of the world's top law schools and law firms. With over 20 years of experience, Mr. Krishna specializes in risk management and commercial dispute resolution. His academic credentials are as global as his practice. An LLB from NLSIU, followed by an LLM in Admiralty Law from Tulane University School of Law, as a Harry F. Style Scholar in Maritime Law. In the United States. A journey that notably also included being an evacuee from the Hurricane Katrina. He is the founding CEO of Nimble Legal, a pioneering legal service provider established nearly a decade ago in 2016. Under his leadership, Nimble Legal has built a formidable presence across Middle East and India, serving a predominantly European clientele in shipping, international trade, and offshore energy. He is licensed to practice in India and England and holds rights of audience in the Indian, DIFC and KDGN courts. His expertise is further recognized through his roles as a supporting member of the London Maritime Arbitrators Association and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. But the narrative of his career recently came full circle. It's a powerful testament to the global opportunities that await you in maritime law and arbitration, and the significant role you can play in the development of your own region. In short, he has built a career at the very intersection of the topics we are here to discuss today. So without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Krishna, who will guide us through the vast and exciting landscape of careers in maritime law and international commercial arbitration. Welcome, you, sir.
This guy she's talking about. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. I know some of you have been dragged here against your will, so don't feel obliged to stay. If you have better things to do, please go. I wouldn't mind at all. As colleague just mentioned, I went to the National Law School, so it was quite a long time ago, but I was in seats like this, and I had to sit and endure some very, very boring lectures. So, but that's a shortened form of my full name for the Telugu speakers in the room. My name is Vijapurapu Ananta Harigopala Krishna. Try saying that, not from Andhra. And that's why I don't use it. But when I say I'm from here, that's not an exaggeration. My family has been in Vizag since the 1700s. And so when I was 16, I discovered that the National Law School existed. I didn't know anything about it. I went and asked a few people, a few lawyers, and they were like, oh yeah, actually it does exist and it's the best law school in the country. So I was like, okay, I want to go there. And they looked at me and they were like, really? With your grades? I mean, I wasn't a great student. They said, do you really think you can go there? Why didn't you go to, Andhra University Law College? I said, you can be a big fish in a small pond. I said, nah. I mean, I was fiercely competitive. I used to do a lot of quizzing, I did the Britannia quiz and the Littlecote quiz and what have you. So I was like, no, if it's the best law school in the country, I want to go there. And then I went and took the entrance test and I got it, right? But then the National Law School had this requirement that you had to have a minimum 60% in your class 12 board exam. So after that I was worried. I was like, okay, I got in, but can I go? Because I don't know if I'll get 60% in my class 12 exam. Anyway, so I ended up at the National Law School. It was fairly intense. I mean, I don't know, do you guys do semester system? So do you guys do a semester system here? So the National Law School Bangalore has a trimester system. So it's 3 trimesters, 5 years, so that's 15 trimesters, which means 15 midterm exams, 15 times 4. So 4 courses every term. So you have 60 midterm papers, midterm exams, 60 end-term exams, and 60 projects, so essays to submit. So it was a total pressure cooker, which is great because once you get out of there, you can deal with anything, right? But when I went to the US for my LLM, I realized that I was much more equipped and capable of dealing with the curriculum there than, say, some of the European students because of the structure of the NLS program. Anyway, halfway through my journey at NLS, I met Mr. Venkateshwaran, the late S. Venkateshwaran, senior advocate of the Bombay High Court, who was then the top maritime lawyer in India, and he was considered one of the top maritime lawyers in the world. So I went up to him and I said, look, I'm from Vizag. I've always been surrounded by people who have had something or other to do with shipping. So, and my own grandfather had a maritime flavor to his practice. I mean, he died when I was 9, so it's not like I had much to go by. But yeah, so I said to Venki, I said, look, I would like to be a maritime lawyer. And he said, okay, why don't you come intern with me? So I went to Bombay, did my first internship with him, at the end of which he said, when do you graduate? I said, well, I've got 3 more years to go. And he's like, yeah, well, just keep coming back and don't look for a job, you have a job there. Great. So I went back to NLS and didn't work very hard. I was just focused on getting my degree and going back to Bombay. I'm not saying that you should do anything like that. Work hard because times have changed. So I went to Bombay, started my career at the Bombay High Court, and then Mickey called me in one day and said, look, you're starting to get busy. If you stay another year, you just can't take any time off. So why don't you go get a master's degree? Because at that time, I don't know how it is today in India, but back then, if you had a foreign LLM, it meant something, and it set you apart from other lawyers. So that's how I ended up applying to Tulane University. Tulane, for those of you who don't know, has the best maritime law program in the world. The Tulane Maritime Law Center is involved in developing the maritime laws of China, Panama, and they're deeply involved with the Greek shipping industry, but all of Latin America. So it is a very well-recognized program and a very well-connected program. So I went to Tulane for my LLM. 3 weeks later, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, so I had to evacuate. I went to Austin, Texas, spent a semester there because New Orleans was flooded. While I was in Austin, I met my wife. So that then resulted in me never coming back to India because India, until recently, didn't allow foreign lawyers. So I wasn't going to come back to India and not have my wife be able to work. So that's how I ended up in Dubai. I first worked for a firm called Clyde & Co., which is one of the top shipping, aviation, and insurance law firms in the world. I was there for 6 or 7 years. I was heavily involved in their India business strategy group. So I would come to mainly to Bombay and Delhi to try to build their local presence, which was an independent law firm with which they had a relationship. And then I left. I went to another English law firm called Holden Fenwick, which is one of the oldest maritime law firms in the world. I was there for a bit, and then in 2015, October 2015, there was a global oil price crash. Overnight, the price of a barrel of oil went from $140 to about $10. They were giving away oil at one point. And my practice at the time was heavily focused on tanker shipping, oil tankers carrying crude and products around the world, and offshore oil and gas. So I thought that was a great opportunity to set up my own shop, because when you have such a big swing in the market, people start fighting, right? Your contracts could potentially be worthless. So look, none of this is stuff they teach you in law school, all right? That you see an opportunity and you take it. It's not a question of sitting there and analyzing who's right and who's wrong in a contract, but realizing the economic opportunity that I could build a business out of this. So 2016, I formed my firm, Nimble Legal, in the UAE. What I was thinking was, by that time, lived there almost 10 years. I knew a lot of people, enough people knew me. I felt confident enough to start my own firm. Of course, I was helped with a healthy injection of capital from my wife. She believed in me, so she gave me the money to start my firm. And now my firm is 10 years old. Well, we're coming up to our 10th anniversary. And I feel confident enough that I spend a lot of my time traveling, giving back. So rather than focus on what I do in terms of the work types that I do, let me tell you about what I do in terms of who I work for, who are my clients, and what do I do in terms of non-profits and in terms of giving back. And what I'm doing today is a form of giving back, because I'd like to contribute in some small way to you thinking about making a career, whether it's a career like mine or a completely different path altogether. I would like to be able to have a conversation with you about what the future might hold. So, I think this is a good segue into where do careers in maritime law start? Like I said, I had a unique experience. I went to a senior advocate, begged for a place in his chambers. He said yes, and that was it, right? That may not work out for everyone. You may need to write to several firms. You may need to, apply for internships in a number of places. And you may need to take a different path. And let's not forget, I mean, when I went to NLS, there was one NLS, right? Now there are how many? 25 NLUs. So there's a lot more of you guys than the number of national law school or national law university students we had back then. So there is more intense competition. The size of the Indian economy is far, far larger than what it was 20 years ago. So, so there are two aspects to that. On the one hand, there's a lot more competition. On the other hand, there are a lot more opportunities. And when you talk about maritime law, the starting point is the maritime industry, right? It's a bit of a shame that even though India has such a large coastline and we're the world's largest supplier of seafarers, most people in India have only a faint idea of what the maritime industry is about. Let me tell you this. Here's an interesting statistic. 90% of what you see around you has been on a ship, right? If you think, oh yeah, there's all these amazing cars that we now have that are being shipped in from China. Yes, they're being shipped in. They go on a ship and get here. Raw materials, coal that fires up the power plants. All of this stuff gets carried on a ship. People get excited about aviation, space, what have you, but maritime shipping is so fundamental to our civilization. So it will always be there, right? That is not to say that it's a clean industry. It's far from it. It's we burn diesel, right? So it's barely refined from crude oil. So there is a big move to shift to green shipping, which is cleaner ships, more advanced ships. But that's a topic for another day. The point really is, it is a big, big industry, and there are many different ways in which you can be part of that industry. So there are maritime lawyers who represent ship owners. There are maritime lawyers who represent cargo owners. And very few people do both because, you know, there's a clear conflict of mindset, forget conflict of interest in legal terms. So if you're acting for a cargo owner, you always believe that the ship owner is the bad guy. If you act for a ship owner, you feel like, you know, cargo interests are just greedy and they're trying to, you know, pin the blame on you for their problems. So now some people think people who specialize in the public international law of the sea are also maritime lawyers. They're not. They're really public lawyers. They're really public international law specialists who mostly, most of the law of the sea specialists you see would be working for governments or intergovernmental organizations. They wouldn't be in private practice. And now, I mean, that's all. Apart from private practice, you have people who work in-house. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of P&I clubs. So a P&I club is basically a mutual association of ship owners who pool their risks together and insure each other. So rather than buy insurance from a company, they decide they'll pool in money, and that pool of money will pay for claims against anyone, right? It's basically a non-profit. So there are lawyers who work within clubs to represent their members who are ship owners, and you have clubs that protect the interests of charterers or cargo interests, not cargo interests, charterers. So you have private practice lawyers, you have in-house lawyers who work in the clubs, you have in-house lawyers who work within the corporate legal departments of the ship owners, and you have the public international organization. So broadly speaking, these are the potential avenues in which you can be a maritime lawyer of some kind. There are also opportunities within government. I've seen, India, for example, has a lot of these government-owned companies that are involved in maritime business. From Shipping Corporation of India to Dredging Corporation of India to SAIL and whatever else. So broadly speaking, these are the potential avenues. Now, in terms of where you get your start, you could literally start anywhere, right? One thing that will be important is, as you probably figured out already, is where you do your internships, where whether you have exhibited any interest in the sector in terms of any projects or papers that you've written, any moot courts that you've been involved with. So if you start laying the groundwork now, it will become easier to demonstrate that interest by the time you put a CV in front of someone and say, I want to be a maritime lawyer, right? Or even if you want to go to a university like Tulane or Swansea or the National University of Singapore, which are some of the main universities for foreign LLMs, you should be able to demonstrate an interest in the sector. If you just show up and say, I want to be a maritime lawyer, I have no background in this, it'll be difficult to get taken seriously, right? But then, just coming back full second, so like I said, 20 years ago, I wanted to come back to India. I couldn't for personal reasons. But now, earlier this year, we started an office in Mumbai. And one thing I'm trying to figure out during this trip is whether our second office should be in Vizag. And the reason for that is, if you look at the development of the maritime sector in India, it's just exploding, right? On the west coast, you have so many new ports. You have all of this container shipping. You've got oil shipping into predominantly Gujarat. You've got shipbuilding in Cochin, Goa, Vizag, both defense shipbuilding and civilian shipbuilding. In the last few months, a lot of foreign ship owners have announced that they are moving their ships to India. They're registering their ships in India going forward. So, last week, Mr. Naidu, the East Coast accounts for about 35 or 36% of Indian shipping, and they want to increase the share of the East Coast in Indian shipping. So, and that includes new ports. That includes new ports in Andhra as well as other states, but just Andhra alone, there are a sheer number of new ports in the pipeline. So that's where things stand, that there's a big explosive growth on the horizon for the Indian maritime sector. And you know, if you want to get into it, start working on it now. I mean, there's always happy accidents that people do mid-career change of direction, but getting in a certain direction now, I would strongly recommend that you start working now towards that goal, and not just rely on some happy accident sometime in the future. So that's all I've got to say in terms of a potted speech, but I'd be happy to take any questions. Believe me, there's no such thing as a silly question, so fire away.
Generally, this question regarding whether a person should be a specialist or a generalist when it comes to law. And more often than not, when you're starting off in your career, at least I am told that I shouldn't restrict myself to one aspect of law, be it maritime or arbitration. Rather, I should keep my options open, that I should get expertise in other forms of law to be able to survive at least in the litigation or the Indian legal sphere. What is your take?
But should you specialize or should you be a generalist at the start of your career? That is, in my view, a very old-fashioned view that you need to be a generalist when you start, because the body of law is so vast, the market is so big. I mean, we're now a nation of 1.5 billion people, right? It's okay to say if you have like thousands of lawyers, serving everyone, it's like all, the market is in balance, great. No, what we have is actually thousands of lawyers coming out every year and competing for, a smaller and smaller share of the pie. So, what benefit is it to be a generalist, right? Because, see, a lot depends on whether you want to have an international focus or a domestic focus, right? If you're serving a purely domestic clientele, you need to do a bit of everything, right? But if you are focused on an international clientele, you can leave the domestic bits to other people, right? And believe me, my clients are perfectly fine with me saying, okay, to do this, I need to bring someone in, right? That's not what I do. Nobody expects me to have all the answers. Right? And that's the other logical fallacy in anyone saying be a generalist, right? So being a generalist is great intellectually, but people are not going to pay you to be a generalist. They want answers, right? So, my take would be focus on what you want, pick a lane, you'll be perfectly fine. If you don't know the answer, find someone who knows the answer. That'll make you a better lawyer to your client than being a generalist. Being a generalist might be good for you intellectually, that you understand so many things about so many things, but does that provide value to your client? I don't think it does. Far away, far away.
Look for in a new budding lawyer.
What skill? A willingness to learn. What we don't want, and again, I mean, let me be very blunt about this. And you may not hear this very much in an Indian context. My focus is providing value to my client, right? So I want someone who can just pick up things and learn quickly, not go off on an intellectual exploration, but just stay focused, come up with answers, do what's required, do what's asked. Of course, I mean, be adventurous in terms of stepping out of your four corners and, you know, think creatively and all of that. But focus and a willingness to learn is fundamental. Also, the flip side of that is don't just wait, volunteer, and do more than. It doesn't have to be excessive, but do more than strictly necessary. Because if you look at a job in a law firm or wherever as this is what you pay me for and this is what you get, if you take that transactional view, that will limit your career. Because yes, it's a business, yes, the client has to get value, but it's slightly more than that, right? So knowing that is what separates these professions from the trades, right? So that is, yeah, so it's not a skill set really, it's more of an attitude. How many batches have graduated from DSNLU so far?
10, 12.
15.
Okay. Would you rate your alumni association as strong, or do you have? I mean, as a student body, is there a strong bond that connects you guys? That you have a shared pride of being DSNLU students? My strong suggestion would be to work on that. Because if, and I'll tell you this, and no disrespect meant to the faculty here, that is a challenge in most NLUs that are not the National Law School. The National Law School Bangalore has had this very, very strong alumni network and this feeling of somehow being unique and special. That even today, I can just pick up the phone and, you know, in 2 phone calls get through to whoever I want to speak to in this country, right? That power of the alumni network is something you guys should aspire to. If, as a student body right now, you don't feel like there's something that unifies us, there's, you know, for National Law School Bangalore, we're the National Law School, right? That's the brand, right? That's the brand that unites all of it. If you don't have one today, build it, right? Whatever it takes, whether it's a moot court, whether it's you know, at NLS we had something called Gala, which is the student festival where everyone comes from all over the country. Because there is no substitute for a strong network. You may know whatever you know in terms of the black letter law. You might have whatever skills you have. You might be the best researcher. You might speak eloquently. But if you don't have friends, you are limited. Right? And I'm not saying that in some sort of corrupt fashion that, you know, who you know is more important than what you know. No, it's the fact that you have a network, the fact that you share certain values, that will help you much more than anything else. I mean, nobody cares about your grades, right? Nobody cares whether you have got 8 gold medals, right? What they will remember is, were you respectful? Were you helpful when someone needed help? Yeah. Those are the things that connect people, and that's what will help you further your career, right? So I'll tell you, I'm a member of at least 3 networks, right? One is the National Law School Alumni Network, which is extremely helpful. The other is the Tulane University, the Tulane Maritime Law Alumni Network. Again, there's a brand. People know that you're from Tulane. That opens doors, right? No questions asked. And then it's up to you. Once the doors open, the rest is up to you. Okay, if you mess it up, you mess it up. All right, but your challenge is, once the door opens for you, not to mess it up. Right? The third network that I'm part of is the International Association of Young Lawyers. As students, I think you can become members for, I think, free or very little money. Look it up. It's called AIJA, A-I-J-A. And you know, for those of you who are interested, I can give you the details later. I can give you my card. So I am the UAE national representative for AIJA. AIJA is the French abbreviation of Association Internationale du Halkawa. But the thing is, AIJA is such a strong network. Not a day goes by without me getting a WhatsApp message. Like, we have all these WhatsApp groups that we need a corporate lawyer in Somalia. Not kidding. That was a genuine query 2 days ago, right? Or we need someone in Bhutan, right? Could be anywhere in the world. And then people, if we don't have someone in the network, they will find someone they know and pass on the details. So that is one example. That's a referral network, right? So you can have referral networks, you can have alumni networks that just give you a leg up, you know, they'll just open doors for you. So these networks are far stronger than any of the other traditional networks that you may have grown up around before you got to law school. But the starting point, I would say, is create something here that you can turn back and say, we created some magic, right? Because that will be key to your success. So look around this room, appreciate each other, because you have worked hard to get to this place. It's not like you just walked in, right? And that, if anything else, should connect you. That, you know, you work hard. You will have to work hard going out of this place to find, because you are competing with 20 or other law schools and all the other law colleges and so forth. But so given all of these factors, I think the starting point needs to be here. And you know, you have professors, you have your vice chancellor who, you know, he's very proud of what's happening on campus. He's very proud of you as a student body. You can use their support. You can, you know, you can reach out to people like me. I'm sure there will be others who will come to speak to you guys. But do something here that you can look back on and say that's where it all started, right? Because without that, it will be very hard. It'll be easy to find something to do, but if you're looking to, not just have a job, but a career, do something that you're proud of, I would say start working on forming your network now. Right, I'm out of words now.
But recent law graduate who may have taken maritime law as an elective subject.
So I don't know. I don't know what people are paid yet. But I can ask some people and let you know. I mean, these guys, Bose and Mitra, they're friends of mine. I can ask them what they pay. Look, I don't think maritime law is the most lucrative field. I mean, compared to, and I'm talking about internationally, I'm not talking about India. But, please have a seat. But what I can assure you is you'll have a lot more fun as a maritime lawyer than being an IP lawyer or a corporate lawyer. It's a much more rewarding experience being a maritime lawyer because, the situations you come across, the people you come across are so interesting. And it's ultimately a people business because, you're constantly dealing with quirky characters who are carrying all this stuff around the world. Sorry, someone else.
Sir, could you delve further into the differences between public international law practice in maritime law and private practice, like what you are doing?
Sure. Look, I should tell you, public international law, or the law of the sea, right? So I know I said I won't get into theory, but here's a theoretical difference. The law of the sea relates to international borders and what you can do inside and outside those borders. So the first 12 nautical miles off the coast of a country are the territorial waters of that country. Beyond that, 200 nautical miles, that's the exclusive economic zone where a country can do mining, drill for oil, whatever it wants, right? And then there are other intricacies if, say between India and Pakistan, there's not 200 nautical miles, so where do you draw the line? So those sort of things are really the realm of international diplomacy and bilateral negotiation. So most of the people who do that sort of work tend to work for the government. So they would be working in the shipping ministry or the Ministry of Surface Transport or whatever it's called these days. They'd be working for the foreign ministry. They wouldn't really be working in private practice, right? So as a lawyer in private practice, I can talk about that stuff, but there's almost zero opportunity for me to deal with that in my practice. Right? So, I mean, sometimes I get into questions of, this particular incident happened, I don't know, 109 nautical miles off the coast of, I don't know, Yemen. Which court will have jurisdiction? Who knows, right? So, other than those occasional questions, and once I had this case where an Indian government-owned ship, an ACI-owned ship, was going to Basra in Iraq to load a cargo of crude oil, which it was then going to bring to the Vizag refinery, the HPCL refinery. And that crude oil was sufficient for 1 week's worth of fuel for the power plant next door, right? Now, this ship goes into Basra. On the way out, the Iranian Navy picks up this ship, detains her for a month, saying this ship caused pollution in Iranian waters and affected the livelihood of Iranian fishermen, right? We then had to go to something called the IOMOU, the Indian Ocean MOU, to which Iran and India, both parties, to try to get them to resolve this dispute as to whether there was actually any pollution, blah, blah, blah. So that, I think that was like one of maybe 3 times in my 20-odd-year career that I had to deal with this public international or law of the sea stuff. But generally, no. But having said that, look, there are people who, it's become a bit of a trend now to go into the Indian Foreign Service, and through that, get into policy and strategy, start doing this sort of work that's more focused on maritime trade or maritime sector. So yeah, I mean that would be where the line gets drawn. I just genuinely, I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong, but I genuinely don't think there's much of a career to be made in private practice when it comes to the law of the sea.
So I have a thing, it is to be dual qualified or English qualified when it comes to your practice as an international maritime law.
Oh, please go ahead, please. As something dual qualified in England and New York, largely. I'm the only one who's qualified in both India and we have someone who's qualified in India and New York. So most of us are, in my firm, are dual qualified. But I think you should know, when you become an English solicitor, you have a certain code of ethics and all of that, but also what you're expected to do, the role you're expected to perform is different from that of an Indian advocate. And that's something that you will learn through the whole SQE1, SQE2 process. But that's something that you need to know going in, that the role of a solicitor is actually pretty well defined. So it's not simply a question of, say, unlike doctors where you go get licensed in another jurisdiction, you're still a doctor, right? But there is a difference, there's a slight difference in roles between an Indian advocate and an English solicitor. So if you're qualifying as an English solicitor, you should know why you're doing that, not just because it's good for your CV, right? And happy to have a chat about the differences and how you go about qualifying, because the practical experience that you get as a solicitor in a solicitor's firm is very different. Anyone else?
So what are the biggest challenges that your clients face daily? Is it dispute resolution, is it compliance related issues, or anything else?
Well, my clients don't really face compliance challenges, because the thing with compliance is you just have to comply. You just have to do it, right? It's not optional. And what you'll see generally internationally is people don't resist compliance, regulatory compliance. It's not seen as a challenge to business. It's seen as just something you do. It's part of doing business. So the challenges really lie in commercial disputes, right? Where people have different views on what they have to pay, what they have to do. So that really is the bigger issue, because everyone's focused on their bottom line, right? As far as compliance is concerned, it's simply a question of the cost of compliance. How much do you want to spend on it, right? If it costs too much, then they complain about it. But in terms of whether or not they have to do it, you just have to. So let me ask you this: how many of you here are looking at an international career? Okay? How many of you are thinking of getting a master's degree after law school? Okay, those are good numbers. So, look, my suggestion to those of you who are looking to get a master's degree is work for a bit, work for a year or two before you go get a master's degree, because otherwise it's going to be just too theoretical. And also it depends on where you go. If you're looking at a foreign LLM, it all again depends on what are you trying to achieve. Are you trying to get a theoretical education? Is it quality of education? Is it to build a network? Is it just to gain some experience of living abroad? And believe me, none of those are wrong, right? Those are all good goals to have. And I can tell you from experience, it helps to live in another country, even for a little bit, because some notions and stereotypes and prejudices that you grow up with, they're hard to get out of your head unless you see this country from the outside, right? Just go out of your comfort zone, live somewhere else, and that teaches you a lot, more than any school or job can teach you. Sorry, someone had a question? You.
So my opinion might be a bit contradictory from what you said, but once we start working, can we again go back to again the academic field, doing a master's and everything? How much practical is it? Because like I have seen people who stated that they'll do their master's or higher studies once they start working, but once you start working, I feel like in the whole mechanical cycle will fall, it becomes very difficult to again come back to the phase of a student where you have to do your master's.
Sure. Look, please have a seat. You're not wrong. But how old are you?
20 or 20.
So here's something that I should tell all of you, right? In India, you're programmed to get through university, find a job, and start your career, and that's it. There's no looking back. That's it. You've started working, so that's it. You are in a career. You're settled. Yeah. Nonsense, right? If you look at the rest of the world, people take their time to find what it is that they want to do, right? And I can give you an example from the National Law School, because that's the community I know the best. There are graduates of NLS who are now novelists, they are artists, they are dancers, actors, as well as, judges and professors and what have you. So there is no rush to find the one place that you want to make your career. Your career will evolve over time. So don't be in a rush. Explore, all right? And it's never like in your 20s, 30s, if you quit your job, you want to do something else, nobody's going to blame you for it. It's just, you can always go back to it, because guess what? You're still qualified, right? It's not like you have to go back to law school or you have to go back and get something else to restart. So right now you're thinking in terms of, oh, I need to get qualified and find a job, right? But once you're qualified, hopping jobs, finding another job after a break of a year or two, it's easy peasy. It's not a challenge at all. Sorry.
So like nowadays it has been witnessed that specifically after climate change and sea level rise and these things have affected commercial contracts as well, specifically in maritime sector. So have these things specifically affected your practice and types of cases that you
Yes and no. Yes and no. One common example is there's something called safe port warranty, not be a safe port anymore, right? So there's those types of issues. Then we see issues with refrigerated cargoes, right? So suddenly the weather patterns change, temperature patterns change, and then what was right before is no longer right? So stuff like that, it's becoming more and more common, and also just stuff blowing up, like metals and coal and other things, or wheat tends to explode. So if it's in a container and suddenly you're hit with unseasonal temperatures and something explodes, so who's to blame, right? The cargo owner might say, I gave you all the relevant declarations, you did something wrong. Ship owner goes, that's just something that happened, because of what? Climate change. So yeah, I mean, there's look, the bigger issue with climate change in the maritime sector is actually fuel, because ships burn the dirtiest fuel possible. It's barely better than crude oil. So there's a move to change the propulsion on ships to I don't know, LNG, wind, electric. So and also low sulfur fuel, very low sulfur fuel. So there's a whole lot of that stuff happening. That then has an impact on charter party issues, because at the end of the day, look, a ship is a big taxi, right? So if someone charters it, who pays for the fuel, right? So someone can pay for just the ship and say, you, Mr. Owner, you pay for the fuel, or they say, okay, we're going to pay for the fuel. Well, if they're paying for the fuel, they'll pay on the basis of a certain consumption rate. If that consumption rate goes the other way, who pays for that? So those are the sort of issues that we see that are affected by climate change. But look, it affects every industry. It's across the board. And anyone who says climate change isn't real, it is. It is. I mean, weather patterns are changing insanely. Consumption patterns are changing as a result. But one thing that might happen during our lifetime is there's something called the northern route. So historically, people used to sail either around the Cape of Good Hope, around Africa, or through Suez. Now they can sail through the Arctic Circle, right? So if that becomes a regular thing, and the only reason that's happening is because of climate change. So yeah.
You've been in the field for 20 years, as you said. So, what keeps you interested in the field? Like, do you ever go back and think about the whys of this job? Like, what gives you meaning and purpose in this work? Because I am a person who is oriented that way. Like, I need to find meaning in my work. So, does the work satisfaction, or is there something you look out for?
Look, I can give you a frou-frou answer for it, but this is what keeps it interesting. People. Yeah. Ultimately, the law is a people business, right? And I'll be honest. Let no lawyer tell you that they enjoy every minute of what they do. The legal profession suffers from one of the highest levels of oppression, substance abuse, mental health problems. So the challenge is always to try to stay as sane as you can, because and the reason for that is, on the one hand, people come to you expecting you to solve their problems. Most lawyers can't solve problems. right? You're ultimately, say you're a disputes lawyer, you're in the hands of a judge, right? And judges don't always agree with you, right? And then you end up getting blamed for it. What do? Right? So I think understanding that there's a balance between what you can take responsibility for and what you cannot blame yourself for, that is key. You have to take care of yourself, right? You have to protect yourself from these pressures where people are looking at you as though you're God. You're not God, right? And protecting and caring for your mental health is going to hold you in better stead than constantly aiming to be the best lawyer in town or the most, most famous lawyer in town. None of those things matter. Take care of yourself, and you will find that you will be a better lawyer to your clients. Right? It doesn't matter what your opponents think. Right? They might think you're the worst person on earth. That's great, as long as your clients love you. Right? And it doesn't matter how much your clients love you if your family doesn't. Right? And that's something that lawyers lose focus on. A lot of lawyers lose focus on their family and the well-being of their family, and they're like, oh, my clients are more important. No, they're not. Right? Nothing's more important than your well-being and that of your family. So focus on that, and everything else will fall into place. Right? And let no one tell you that they are more important or that as your client they're somehow doing you a favor. Nobody's doing you a favor. Right? And if there's anything you take away from today, let that be it. Right? All right. So thank you for your time. I hope this has been a good use of your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Your session has been very insightful, and perhaps there are a couple of people in the room who have changed their perception about pursuing maritime law as a career. With that, we come to the